every situation is different for everybody. Everything's an opportunity. To me, the transition was, hey, this is my next step, and it makes total sense. Now, I will tell you, it's
Today on Time We Discuss, I want to welcome Marty Dunn, and it's time we discuss what it's like working as a small business consultant. Marty, thank you for joining me today.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, the one question I always start out with, what is a typical day like for you as a small business consultant?
There's not a pure typical day, but we'll go through, what thing. It depends whether I'm doing sales meetings for myself or if I'm doing client delivery. I vary day by day. Typical day, in the morning, wake up, kind of get my kids out of the house, make sure everything's going well, get to the gym, make sure taking care of myself physically and mentally every day. But then my meetings start. I typically meet with my clients once a week. So I'll have 3 to 4 client meetings a day, or if I'm doing sales calls, I'll have anywhere from 10 to 15 of those a day. So it varies by day.
Have you always been in consulting, or at some point did you leave a job to become a consultant? How did you get to be in this current role?
That's actually my favorite question. I grew up in financial services, which worked at State Street, JP Morgan, SEI, worked at a hedge fund, was all over the place. Realized, through my career at smaller and smaller companies, right? So left the hedge fund, gosh, I want to say in 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, and then started a small business doing cybersecurity consulting, and value-added reseller, which a lot of people don't know what that is. You help to deliver a vendor, and their hardware, software over to other, the government or large businesses, things of that nature. Was there for about 5 years, and I realized, I love the small business world, but I was doing the same thing over and over again for one business. I realized I had a skill set, and I refer to myself as the operations nerd. And people, are like, really? I'm like, yeah, I wear that like a badge of honor. I'm cool with it. I'm an operations nerd. I know how the central part of a company should work. And I realized, what I really want to do was help as many companies as I could with that, right? So I go in and and I help somebody who's we primarily work with service-based businesses, right? The plumbers, the electricians, the landscapers, the marketing companies, them, right? They're all excellent at what they do, right? They're not so they all started their, in a couple of different ways. A lot of times, they didn't like the person they were working for and they wanted to do it themselves. They had a better idea of how to do it. You build a better bread box, or hey, I got mad at this guy and I'm going to go make more money than that dude did. So I'm going to start my own company. That's all well and good, but running a company is not the same thing as providing the service, right? So, we come in and we help, provide that, help run the company so it runs smoothly. Because, if you ask a plumber, show me, how, what your net profit is, or tell me about EBITDA, they're going to look at you like you have 4 heads, like I have no idea what you're doing, right? If they're not used to dealing with employee problems. They're not used to dealing with, setting up an LLC, setting up why go S corp versus C corp, right? Why to incorporate in Delaware instead of New York or Pennsylvania or Jersey, all the things. These are all the nerdy things that I do and I love doing. So I handle everything from operations, finance, leadership, team culture, team development, things of that nature.
It's funny you mentioned operations nerd. I was speaking with I forget his name, but a sommelier, a wine expert, and
Yep.
he referred to himself as a wine nerd. So I appreciate that. Some things coming back from the past, which is nice. So you talked about financial services. You talked about cybersecurity. What is your background in education? Do you come from a tech background? Do you come from a finance background, a business background? What is
Uh,
that like for you?
so I came from economics major in college, and then obviously that helped with the financial services area. But I quickly, everyone's like, "Oh, you're going to finance. You're going to be a trader." I didn't want to be a trader. I didn't want to be that guy, right? I wanted to fix processes, make things better, make things smoother, you know, create workflows, right? That's operations 101, right? I learned very early in my career. I started, in accounting and, kind of went through things, and I was like, hey, this isn't right. And I made things better, right? Hey, this fail process isn't right. Let me fix this and make it better, right? And that's part of that was my passion. It's what I love doing. And that's why I call myself the operations nerd, because who's passionate about fixing processes, right? This guy, right? But I realized, my education helped to get me in the door with that, but process and workflow, you know, doesn't necessarily derive from economics or finance. It derives from doing things in a proper manner and making things efficient, right? So, of course, my education helped me in the beginning stage of my career, and quite frankly, it helps me now, but from the financial side. But the core of what we do from the operations and finance side, I'd say probably 20% is finance driven, and the rest is the operational and team development, team culture, leadership development.
In your current role as a consultant, do you work with another company? Are you self-employed? What is your role in that aspect?
I have a business partner, real good friend. I I've known him for about 20 years. Play, he went to the same high school I did, but he's a lot younger than me. Didn't know him in high school. We He ended up playing on a men's league lacrosse team with me, and he was brought in by another guy, and really good dude, really passionate, really hardworking. Similar mindset that I am. Let's figure out a way to do things. A couple of years ago, he started something with AI-driven financial services, for FP&A, financial planning analysis, and he really wanted to figure out how to deliver that to small businesses, and realized quickly that he wanted to shift to consulting. We joined forces when I was leaving the cybersecurity company, and kind of haven't really looked back from there. It's been self-employed, if you will, because we own the company. We have a couple people who work for us, and I say with us, not for us, because I don't need people working for me. The people who work with us are phenomenal, and they don't need me to run the show for them. But kind of circling back, you talked about education. I think sports provide just as much of an education as school does. A lot of the lessons learned from sports translate overall into the consulting world of how to develop leaders. You want to be the captain, not the best player on the team, right? And because you can be both, but the captain's more important, right? Helping small business leaders, owners become leaders is a lot of what we do. And I think a lot of that was derived as much from the playing field as it was from the classroom.
Let's talk about that a little bit more because so my background, I'm a music guy. I was
Yeah.
never good at sports. I tried a bunch of them, was not my thing. So I went the music road. So talk to me more about that. So what are some of those transferable skills that people that have developed playing sports can take them with them into the professional world? Something that they might have overlooked when they're doing their resume or something like that.
All right, I'm going to relate this for you. Were you in the band?
I was.
Cool. All right. Imagine being at a band concert, right? And what instrument did you play?
Bass.
All right, you're playing the bass, right? Imagine that there's a out of tune violin, right? And you're in the middle of a song, and that person is not hopped in, and you're in a high school band. There's probably 10, 8 to 10 violins. One is out of sync. Do people hear the entire song, or do they hear that one out of sync violin?
Oh, they're going to hear it.
Right. So, and they're going to focus on that, right? So it's the same thing in sports, right? If you're on a lacrosse field, a football field, however many people you have, if you see that somebody's, kind of out of sync, not playing well, that's the attack vector for the other team, right? So, the way to solve that problem is everybody points the finger at that guy and says, "Hey, you stunk today. What's going to happen the next time?" They're going to say, "Oh, I was terrible." And that mindset puts people in what we call quicksand, right? In sports, transferable skill, in band, transferable skill is what's the best way for that person to get picked up? Because in their head, they've got the negative thought now, right? The best way to do it is not by saying, "Hey, I can do better." It's just saying, "Hey, Dan, you played the bass great today. You were awesome, right?" Bring positive energy to somebody else because no matter how many times Dan says to that person playing the violin it was wrong, right? They're never going to have that belief that it was okay, right? Once they start bringing positive outcomes to other people, that's when their attitude picks back up, right? It's the same thing in business, right? If you teach people that, it's, mistakes are made everywhere, and it's okay. Everyone's human. We all make mistakes, right? Well, in class, everyone wanted to get 100, right? Everyone wanted to do. Listen, none of us are perfect, right? And quite frankly, we're not all robots, and we're great at school or great at sports or great at music or whatever it is. But what I learned, from the playing field is, that what we just were just talking about. Hey, attitude, effort, gratitude. Those are the three things that you can control, right? That gratitude off one, right? Somebody else makes a mistake in your company as a leader, you can't say, well, you screwed up. That's bad, right? What you gotta say is, how do we do it better next time, right? And one of the methods we use is called build, break, build, right? You learn this as on the athletic field, coaching, everything is, hey, it was you did this part really well. You need to work on this, but it was awesome when you did this, right? That comes from the athletic field, but that leaves somebody something to work on, but a positive outcome out of it, right? If you kind of hit that person who played the violin wrong and said, "You really messed up our song, man," that guy's going to go home, think about it all night, think about how terrible it was, all these things. You're a team, man. You're one band, right? Listen, if that violinist fails, we all fail. And as a leader, and like the director of the band, they can't point to the violin player and say, "Hey, we weren't prepared properly. I didn't prepare you guys properly," right? You know, that's that's a hard pill to swallow for a business owner, right? But that's what being a leader is, right? Being a leader is, hey, and I call it, that the extreme mentality of it is everything's my fault, right? How do I make it better, right? That's how the captain works. That's how the leader of the band works. That's how Dan, the bass player, picks up the violin player, right? All these things, like as you go through it, they're all related. Band is no different than a team sport, period, right? That's the way it works.
I love that. I love that analogy and how you can take that and apply to the business world or your job or your team or whatever. Really, really cool concept. Okay, so let's go back and talk about your transition from being an employee with these larger companies and then going and switching into consulting and being the owner of a business. Let's talk about that process because a lot of times, you start out and you might, you do it on the side, or maybe you lost your job and you decide to start a business. Everyone's story is different. How did that story happen for you?
I love helping others. And for me, it was natural, right? It was naturally like, hey, I'm gonna Josh came to me, it was like, hey, I got this thing I'm working on. What are your thoughts? And I was ready to leave my other company. I've been there for 5 years. I kind of grown it to where I could, the main owner was kind of more focused on himself than he was on the team, wasn't being the proper leader. So I was, it was time, right? Let's call it that. Because that's the best way to describe it. And no, I believe every situation is different for everybody, but everything's an opportunity, right? For me, hey, listen, and I don't care what anybody's beliefs are. I'm Christian. I believe God puts me in places where I should be at the right times. For me, God put Josh back in my life my business partner to say, hey, Marty, what about this? What about this way to do it? I was like, this is right up my alley. This is exactly what I was looking to do anyway. This is perfect, right? So to me, the transition was, hey, this is my next step, and it makes total sense. Now, I will tell you, it's not for the weak mind, the weak at heart, right? Because there's ups and downs, right? You know, now we'll call it you eat what you kill, right? It's no longer the cushy, I have a base salary and I can do these things, whatever. You have to make sure that you're prepared for the rough seas of, hey, I gotta go get customers. I am now have to do sales, right? Which, you know, sales wasn't my forte, but I'm not terrible at it. So, that's part of the process, right? You have to trust that you have a skill set that you can deliver that's going to help, and you have people portray that to people, right? So, you know, there are some mentally taxing days. So for me, it was a natural transition, but it was also a wow, okay, I got to really be able to pick myself up on those down days, right? So, it was great for the natural transition to this, but there are days, let's put it that way. And they're fewer and far between now that, we're more established. We're 2 years into this, but the first couple of months are, they're interesting.
Before we started recording, we talked briefly about different organizations that are available for small business owners. I think those are the International Business Network or something like that.
Yeah.
What are some resources that are out there for small business owners that are just really, really beneficial?
So every business owner should look at networking, right? You know, all the VCs have bought some of these other companies for the service-based companies, and they can pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into marketing, right? Small businesses can't do that, right? So, and our mission statement is, or is to help small businesses be David at Buddy and Goliath, right? So in that, okay, how do we help them for that? I want you to go network. I want you to go find people who can, understand what you do, be trustworthy to you, and you be trustworthy to them. So they have hey, I got a guy, right? Go join that network group and find your, extended family, if you will, right? Because, I'm in what's called a BNI, right? And I've been in for about a year. I love it. I got a, great group of 48 people who are quote unquote salespeople for me, not, but, because they're spreading, what I do. And they all get to hear me tell them what I do pretty frequently. So they get to hear the stories of who I'm helping and what I'm doing. Small business owners should go do that, right? Go find that network of people who can help. Join your chamber of commerce, right? Call me if you have questions. Happy to be a resource for people, right? And I'll help direct people what to do, where to go there. But go do those things to extend your sales force, extend your marketing, right? Because you're not alone out there when you feel like you really are when you're a small business owner.
When people are first starting with their business, how often does this happen? And I don't know if you have the answer to this or not. I'm just curious. How often do people join these organizations and their businesses are like day one? They are like at the very, very early stages. Does that ever happen, or is it no,
All the
they're
time.
already all the time?
All the time, yeah. So certain people have had good mentors or good friends say, "Hey, listen, I know this sounds weird, but you need to do this right away," right? Like we have one guy who came into our BNI, and his company is not even started yet. So he's launching in January. He's been with us for 2 months, and he's talking about what he's going to do, right? Because he's building it out. It's great for that, right? Because now he's got, okay, I know I have this group of people who's going to help me, and they know what I do, and they can talk about it, and I can be a trusted resource for them as we go, right? Most, it's not that's not the most prevalent way it goes about it. Normally, what happens is you join a chamber of commerce, right? Or you go to a happy hour networking event, right? Something, and oh, you should do this. Here, come here. A friend of a friend invites you, but you know, you really want to get in there earlier than later because it really mentally it's phenomenal. But as far as the extended sales force and network, it's tremendous because somebody always knows somebody who might need something.
So how often does that happen where you get almost business referrals by meeting other people that are there? I'm assuming that's probably pretty common, right?
Yeah, so that's what that's BNI, is all about that. But like I'll give you I'll give a plug for one of my BNI members. I do my HVAC through Boyle Energy, right? They're out of Havertown. I never would have heard of them through it, but in hearing him give his 10-minute presentation, this guy Pat Boyle, great dude, third generation, like guy, owner. He does never will sell out to VC venture capital. He's family owned, operated forever. And hearing how they do business, that made me comfortable using them for me, right? So, and that was a phenomenal like resource for me. Now I can say refer with confidence. Hey, you need HVAC? Go talk to Pat Boyle, right? So that's easy, and shameless plug for you, Pat. You better thank her for that. But like things like that, like if other things too, like there's a woman who's tremendously organized. Her name's Nicole Dillon. She's a professional organizer, and she does it with like a green thumb in mind, right? It's awesome. She's great, and she's amazing at what she does. She's great for realtors. She's great for she's great for junk removal companies, things like that. So I can refer her out to as many people as I can there, right? Where she wouldn't have that.
Marty, this conversation has been wonderful. Unfortunately, I am running short on time, but one thing I like to do whenever I'm speaking with someone, I like to give them the opportunity to talk about a project they're working on, a cause they believe in, more about their business. So if there's something specific you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
Sure. My company's name Mingma, Mingma. We help small business with their operations and the leadership, all things. If anybody needs any help, feel free to call, do a free consultation with me. Happy to do as many as those as I need to help people. As organizations, I run youth sports. One thing I will plug for everybody, if you have children in youth sports, everyone is generally a volunteer. The refs get paid very low amounts of money. They have been few and far between now because parents have been ridiculous to them. Please be gentle in youth sports and understand that coaches are volunteers. Refs are doing this and barely making ends meet off of it. Trust me, they don't care if who wins or loses. They don't have an interest in the game. This is not Vegas. They're not betting on it. Please be gentle with them. That is my shameless plug because trust me, I've seen the gamut of it and it is the ugliestness of parents is just awful.
Marty, I'm really glad you mentioned that because I do have young kids and I've witnessed that as well, that the parents can be very, very intense.
Yeah, you're not winning the world championship at youth soccer, youth lacrosse, youth football, I think, and people make mistakes. It's okay. And if you truly want to understand like it's like, go volunteer to coach a team for a season. You'll understand how frustrating it is to do it.
I'm going to doubly encourage everyone to go do that.
Yes, it's awesome.
Marty, I'll make sure I get links for your website, for your company. I'll put them on the website. They'll be the description. They'll be all over the place. So when people are trying to find you, they can easily find you.
Awesome.
Marty, it's been absolutely awesome having you on Time to Discuss, and we learned what's like being a small business consultant.
Thanks for having me, man. Great time. I appreciate it.